Tudor, and had apparently become close to her during his wife's long sojourn in England. Worse still, he was using his wife's revenues to enrich himself and his mistress. Margaret had forgiven him for allying with Albany and refusing to join her in England. Now she became consumed with jealousy and a violent, enduring hatred, and decided to separate from him at once. Margaret, at only 3, now found herself the only child of a broken marriage, for whom the term warring parents would become only too apt. It was to be a long and complicated affair, drawn out over 9 years, and engendering much bitterness. There were vicious quarrels, in which the Douglases, and even Henry VIII, who thought it immoral for Margaret to leave her husband, sided with Angus, and Angus's enemy Arran with the Queen. In October 1518, she wrote to Henry VIII, "I am sore troubled with my Lord of Angus, and every day more and more, so that we have not been together this half-year." He had done her much evil, and she was minded to part with him, for I wit well he loves me not, as he shows me daily. It would not have been surprising if, under her mother's influence, Margaret had grown up to have a jaundiced opinion of her father. That would have been understandable, for Angus seized the Queen's property and appropriated more of her revenues, obliging her to live as a poor suitor in Edinburgh. She, in turn, refused to allow him any share in the regency she hoped to secure, and made secret overtures to Albany for help in obtaining the divorce she desperately wanted. At one point, she even alleged, blatantly falsely, that her second marriage was bigamous, because her first husband, James IV, had still been alive 3 years after he had supposedly been slain at Flodden. But Margaret Tudor needed the support of her brother, Henry VIII, and so, in the autumn of 1519, she consented to what proved to be a brief reconciliation with Angus, who agreed to it because he was again engaged in a power struggle with Arran and wanted Henry's backing. Around that time, alarmed at an outbreak of plague in Edinburgh, Queen Margaret took her 4-year-old daughter to Stirling Castle. In December, the Queen was laid low with a vicious attack of smallpox, and there were fears that she might die. For days she lay prone, unable to move or speak, but she recovered to resume her battles with her estranged husband. It was the fate of nobly born girls to be the subject of marriage alliances that were advantageous to their parents, and it was not unusual for them to be betrothed in childhood. By reason of her royal blood and her claim to the English succession, and as James V's half-sister and Henry VIII's niece, Margaret was a highly desirable bride, a great prize in the European marriage market. In 1520, when she was not yet 5, her mother entered into negotiations with Angus's enemy Arran, with a view to her becoming affianced to his eldest son, another James Hamilton, then aged about 4. Thanks to the ongoing feud between Angus and Arran, affairs in Scotland had deteriorated to the extent that the Duke of Albany was anticipating having to return from France to resume his role as regent. Albany was perturbed by reports of the proposed betrothal, fearing that the Queen and Arran would unite against him. Moreover, in the event of the young king's death, Arran was Albany's rival for the Scottish succession. There was no more talk of the marriage, but later that year, Albany formally invited Queen Margaret to assume the regency, pending his return. On the 15th of October, she set out from Linlithgow for Edinburgh, having made the pragmatic decision to be reconciled once more with her husband, a decision that cost her the support of some of her party. Angus and his faction had retained control of the capital, resisting the attempts of Arran to dislodge him from power. He rode forth at the head of 400